Objective. After listening to this module, you'll be able to describe components of an effective learning activity. Lesson planning, learning activities. Learning activities. The learning activities are the nitty-gritty instructions to get to San Diego. After deciding to take the 15 or the 57 to the 5 freeway, which is analogous to the objectives, the learning activities would be the nitty-gritty directions of turn right at XYZ Street, then go left at the stop sign, then go onto the on-ramp to get onto the freeway, etc. Those are the learning activities. So learning activities should support the objectives, be specific, detailed step-by-step instructions for the teacher, be creative and fun, touch on the affective domain of learning, and be multidisciplinary. Support the objectives. Just like the objectives should support and help accomplish the overall goal, the learning activities should support and help accomplish the objectives. Learning activities or direct instruction could include reading a book, displaying diagrams, showing real-life examples of the subject matter, using props, discussing relevant characteristics, watching a video, or other hands-on and/or presentational steps directly related to your lesson plan's stated objective. Specific, detailed step-by-step instructions. Remember that objectives are student-centered. They are outcomes for the students. You don't need to be so specific as to provide all direct quotes of everything that needs to be said, but they need to be specific enough that anyone would be able to teach your lesson without even talking to you and hearing you describe it. They should be able to know exactly what to do just by reading your lesson plan. Which learning activity is better for a lesson on self-esteem? If you are a substitute teacher, which one would you be able to do by following these instructions? Explain to students that the first step in building self-esteem is taking a realistic look at their strengths and weaknesses. Have students fold a piece of paper in half lengthwise, like a taco fold. On one side of the paper, ask them to list all the things they do not like about themselves. On the other side of the paper, have them list all the things they do like about themselves. Ask the students to compare the two lists. Ask them if it was more difficult to list the things they liked about themselves or vice versa. If so, why? Or tell students how important self-esteem is and have them compare what they like about themselves and what they don't like about themselves. Obviously, the first learning activity is better because it included specific step-by-step instructions of what the teacher needs to do. Creative and fun. Having your students do a worksheet is okay as long as you don't have all of your learning activities based on completing a worksheet, and as long as the one worksheet that you have them do is a good worksheet and not just busy work or something to fill in the time. The more fun and creative, the better. Affective domain. Most academic subjects focus primarily on the cognitive domain, which pertains to retention of facts, as we've talked about. One of the goals of health education in general is to educate, hence the term health education. But we know that knowledge alone does not predict permanent behavior change. We have to go a step further. We definitely need to provide facts about the benefits of engaging in a particular health behavior and the consequences of not doing so, or the benefits of not engaging in an unhealthy behavior. But we also need to present those facts in a way that will touch the students on an emotional level and move them to action. We're all familiar with the advertisement that was aired years ago, a picture of a frying pan. This is your brain on drugs as an egg is dropped into the frying pan and begins to sizzle. There wasn't really any factual information that was stated, but yet this had a huge impact on people, and most people today remember this ad campaign, even though it was aired many years ago. The reason we remember this is because it touched on the affective domain of learning. We probably would not have remembered this advertisement if there was no frying pan, no sizzling egg, but just a person saying, "Don't do drugs because it can hurt your brain." Which learning activity touches on the affective domain the most for the objective? Students will be able to identify components that affect our appetite and food choices. Pass around a McDonald's bag with a Big Mac, fries, and chocolate shake. Have students open the bag and smell it. Ask who would like to eat this meal. Then place the Big Mac, fries, and shake into a blender and turn it on. You might need to add a little water to make it blend. Then ask them who would like to eat or drink this. Explain that it's the exact same ingredients. Ask why they no longer want to eat it. Discuss the power of sight and smell on your appetite and food choices. Or place students into small groups. Give each group a piece of paper with 2 meals listed on the paper. Ask students to discuss which meal they would prefer to eat and why. Then have them report to the class the meal they chose and the reason they chose the meal. Explain the role that sight and smell have on our food choices. The first learning activity touches on the affective domain more so than the second. The students actually see a yummy meal turn into a disgusting shake. They experience firsthand how our senses, especially sight, affected their own appetite. Multidisciplinary, it's completely understandable that teachers already have a ton of things to do and things to teach. Where can health education possibly fit in such a crowded curriculum? But remember, health education is extremely multidimensional, which makes it multidisciplinary, meaning that it can be related to virtually every subject. For example, in a reading and language arts class, you can have students write about their experiences with physical activity, specifically things that prevent them from being physically active. In a math class, you can have students calculate their target heart rate, a window of the number of beats that they should have in order to gain cardiovascular benefits. In a history class, you can have students research the fast food industry and how unhealthy fast food has become. So aspects of health can easily be incorporated into virtually any subject matter. So you don't have to set aside a ton of extra time separate from your other teaching responsibilities in order to teach health. Key point: learning activities should support the objectives, include specific, detailed step-by-step instructions, be creative and fun, touch on the affective domain of learning, especially for health education, and be multidisciplinary. And that's it.